Hey guys, welcome to episode 6 of Spaghetti and Barbells. My name's Salvatore.
And my name is Luca.
So today we are covering the perfect balance, fitness strategies and recovery insights. And the 4 topics that we are covering are
Topic number 1 is going to be about the perfect training frequency. So how often should we train to get good results? Topic number 2 is the perfect training style. So how can we choose different type of training based on our health and fitness goals? Topic number 3 is going to be the connection between stress, sleep, and recovery. So how to optimize recovery. And topic number 4 is going to be sauna and ice bath and how they can actually help promote recovery with training.
Let's do it. Alright, so topic number 1 is training frequency. How often should we train? So it's basically, look, it comes down to what you can take on, your capacity, your volume, and then intensity. If you're a newbie and you just started the gym and you've never trained in your life, you wouldn't start 6 days a week, would
No,
you?
probably
No,
not.
you would probably 3 or 4 days a week. Moderate to light intensity, volume being subjective to your abilities. And then if you're a pro athlete, well, you can do whatever you want, pretty much. It's the ball's in your park, so you can do whatever you want because you've got that capacity already built up. You've got that muscle memory, so you can do that. So what do you think, Luca?
Well, it depends on the goal. I would say that if with people that I train that are quite serious with their fitness goals, they tend to be 4, 5, or 6 days per week. However, I do have people that are more general pop, so they don't have as much as fitness as a priority, but they still want to get good results. So I do have people that train 3 times per week. So I think that is okay. I just feel that the more you do within reasons, the better it is. The question is how much you can sustainably do over time.
Yeah.
I would say for a standard person, 3 days per week, I don't think is crazy. I think is doable.
It's manageable.
Yeah. If I have somebody that is a little more serious or somebody competing very soon, I would promote more like a 4, 5 or 6 sessions per week. That's probably what I would suggest.
Look, what I've seen being a PT and a coach for 8 years is that, generally speaking, you've probably seen this too, Luca. People come to your general population and they go, I'm going to train 5 days a week. And they start strong for the first couple of months. Now, life gets in the way. Like, if you have kids get sick, then you can't train, or work gets too busy. And what happens is it throws you out of whack, and you end up only committing to maybe 3 or 4 days a week because you've overcommitted yourself. Then you lose motivation because you've lost sessions, you get angry, and eventually you just stop training altogether. So what I always recommend with every single person that starts is start 3 to 4. Put in that in your timetable. Make sure you come to those 3 to 4 sessions. Make it consistent. Be consistent. And eventually, while your capacity builds over time and your volume builds over time, you get stronger, you get fitter, start adding in more days. So the 5th day and so forth. Talking about that, some people do go overboard, Luca. And what have you seen in your expertise when people actually train too much? Like they do too many sessions?
Yeah, I mean, it's very subjective, so everyone has a different recovery ability.
Correct.
So the more you train and the more you can recover from, the better it is. The question is how much is too much. If you look at research, most research point out that anything between 10 to 20 sets per muscle group per week seems to be sufficient for great results.
Yeah.
You could find people that can maybe bring it up to 30, but I would say like a 10 to 20, maybe 30 sets is not unrealistic.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of factors that determine how well you can recover, such as age. So you will assume that if you're younger, you should be able to recover better than an older person. Sleep quantity and quality. If we sleep 8 hours per night, I would say that it's more likely that we can bounce back better and faster from training. Nutrition as well. If you are in a caloric deficit, the recovery ability is going to be compromised. That's why when we are trying to focus on muscle mass and performance, we want to be in a baseline or in a surplus. We don't want to be in a deficit. If we are in a deficit because we are in fat loss, which is quite possible, the recovery could be not as good as when you are in baseline. So nutrition is definitely a factor. Sleep, stress, age, genetics as well. Some people they just have better genetics. They can just handle more volume and more training frequency and bounce back stronger. So a lot of factors. What I would say is keeping an eye on your performance over time is quite important. If we see that we keep getting stronger week after week after week, we could assume that the
It's
recovery
working.
is
Yeah,
working.
it's working.
So can you handle more? Maybe. Can you get away with less? Maybe. But whatever you're doing for whatever reason is working.
And
so
if
assessing
yeah.
is definitely something that I would strongly recommend.
And if it's working, guys, like Luca said, you keep doing it. You know what I mean? Now, there are other factors that may help someone train more frequently, and that is anabolic steroids, as we know. So a lot of guys out there, a lot of young guys that I've trained in the past, say, why can't I train twice a day? I've been trying to train twice a day and I keep getting cooked and my body just keeps getting sore. I'm not recovering fast enough. And what they're doing is they're unfortunately seeing stuff online and seeing guys train twice a day. Now, you don't get misconstrued by that. Most of those guys probably are taking performance-enhancing drugs. And I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not. Everyone to their own. Like, you want to do it, you do it. Or whatever. Like, I'm not against it. But you can't compare yourself to them because their recovery is a lot quicker due to enhancements. So I'm just saying to guys out there, if you are natural and you're trying to obviously train more frequently and you find like you're hitting a wall or you're actually declining, it's maybe due to the fact that your body isn't recovering as fast enough as someone with performance-enhancing drugs.
There's also to say that the people that we see online, they are potentially using anabolic drugs, which is quite possible, but they are also most likely than not to be genetic freak. So I can take as much drugs as I want. I won't be able to be the next Ronnie Coleman because I don't have genetics.
Yeah.
So we're talking about elite level genetics, drugs, nutrition. All their lifestyle is based on achieving a certain level of physique.
Yeah.
So the drugs is definitely a big part of the formula, but the genetics is the genetics. I really believe that if you don't have the right genetics, you don't get as big as them. You don't recover as much as them. So these guys are great genetics, great sleep, all their life is around their training, they use drugs, so it's a combination of factors. But the drugs definitely enhance your recovery ability and how fast you can progress from one session to the other. So that's something that definitely we want to consider.
Speaking about Ronnie Coleman, he had freaking insane genetics.
Yeah, of course. But he actually became professional as natural, apparently.
Yes, and he was a powerlifter before he was an actual bodybuilder. And he powerlifted through bodybuilding.
Yeah.
That's, he's a freak, genetic freak, and hat off to him. We all respect him, we love him, so, yeah. On to the next subject.
Let's do it.
Alright, so topic number 2 is training style. Now, this is one that we probably get asked the most. A lot of people ask, what is the best way to train? And you know what, there's really no answer to that. Because it all comes down to what you love to do. For example, say I got Luca to do CrossFit. Do you think he's going to put 100% effort in it? Do you think he's going to enjoy it? No, he's not. And he's not going to get results because he doesn't like it. Right? But if I tell Luca to do bodybuilding, he puts his heart and soul into it. And obviously, he has the results to show that. The same goes for me. If you put me through bodybuilding, I'm going to find it monotonous and boring. But you put me in CrossFit, I put 100% effort in, and I'm going to get results. So there is no which way is the best way to train in terms of getting a desired outcome or result of what you intend to get, because whatever you envision is what you have to train. So if someone goes, I want to look like Luca, that's bodybuilding. Okay? But if someone goes, I want to be fit and active and performance-based, well, maybe CrossFit, powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting is the answer. What do you think, Luca?
It depends on the goal, meaning that if I'm trying to achieve a physical as a bodybuilder by running, probably it's not going to happen. So there are training styles that are optimal based on the outcome that you want to achieve. However, personal preference is something that you want to keep in account. Let's say, for example, that I'm trying to build up my lower body and I really dislike doing squatting. Maybe squats is not a good exercise for me, meaning that maybe I'm not going to train as hard as I could, or maybe I'm going to skip session because I don't really want to go through my
100%.
set of 15. So personal preference is something that we want to take in account because it's important to enjoy your session. It is important. It's important from a compliancy, but also from how hard we work perspective. Meaning that if we hate what we are doing, probably we are not going to stick very long and we are not going to put the effort. However, certain training are going to be optimal for the outcome that we are trying to achieve. If I try to be a good runner, doing snatching probably is not going to be like the best exercise. No. So you need to be somewhat relevant. If I want to be a good bodybuilder, I probably need to do some sort of resistance training. Is it going to be a squat? Is it going to be a leg press? Is it going to be a walking lunges? There are different options out there. So there are variation available. So it's important to take in account personal preference, but at the same time we want to take in account also what we need to do in order to get what we want to achieve.
Yeah. It's like, guys, it's that simple. Like, you just need to understand that if you want to be big, like I know a lot of guys out there, young ones, you want to get big, you want to put on muscle, then bodybuilding is probably what you're going to be looking for. But if your goal is to be the fittest and strongest and most active that you've ever felt in your life, maybe some functional movements or functional classes or even CrossFit is probably what you are going to be driven towards.
Yeah, fitness is a very broad term as
Yeah,
well.
it is. It's a massive term. And another thing I can't stand is when people say bodybuilding is not functional movements. It is.
It is. Like,
It's
the more
like-
muscle mass you have, the more potential you have.
It is.
So you don't train specifically for performance,
No,
but there is a
but-
correlation between size and strength.
Yeah.
Meaning that if you have more muscles, you have a higher potential to lift heavier weights,
course.
even if you don't train specifically for that. Of course.
Specifically for that. Look, I honestly think if you're new into fitness, the best place to start is bodybuilding. Let me be honest. You're not going to get any bad effects from doing bodybuilding. I think if you're new to training, start with hypertrophy, start with bodybuilding. Then once you've built a base, move into more serious sports. You get into powerlifting or, Olympic weightlifting, which is a bit more like complex. And then from powerlifting, if you then want more, you can go to CrossFit. That's my journey. I started with bodybuilding, which I'm so happy I did. Because then it moved over to powerlifting, which then made me strong in the big three movements. And then I moved into CrossFit. Now, without those three bases, I don't think I would be as good at CrossFit that I would be at. If I just started with CrossFit from the get-go, I wouldn't have had a base.
Yeah.
Like Luca was saying, with bodybuilding, it's brilliant because you're putting on muscle. So you're getting strong, no matter what. So it just transfers over to anything else you do. Now, Luca does a bit of powerlifting himself.
I used to, yeah.
Right? So starting from bodybuilding to get into powerlifting, it made him better at squats, made him better at deadlifts, and obviously better at bench press. So the conclusion to this is pretty simple. Find something that you enjoy to do. Find a physique. Maybe it's a physique. Maybe it's performance based. But find out what you want to do. Find out what you want to achieve, and then set your training up to obviously get you to that point. And then obviously you'll see results. Now, speaking from experience, the best my body's ever looked is by doing CrossFit. Reason being is because I put, like Lucas said, I put 110% effort into it because I love it.
It's consistency over time.
Do you know? And I'm consistent, and I love the sport, and I love training it. So I push myself to beyond limits. Where when I do bodybuilding and powerlifting, I don't really push myself to about 100%. I kind of did, but not a lot. But with CrossFit, every session is 100%, and it's because I love it. And what happens is, a byproduct of any training regime, your body's going to look good. It doesn't matter if you're doing bodybuilding, powerlifting, or Olympic weightlifting, or CrossFit, or any like functional circuit training. If you put in 110%, your diet's on point, your sleep's on point, and everything's on point, your body's going to look good, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think that there is when you train for performance, the side effect is you improve aesthetically, and when you train for aesthetics, your performance improves as a consequence. So it's not specific for performance, maybe, but having more muscle mass brings more strength. And it's not specific for aesthetic, but be stronger, build up muscle mass. So they are correlated.
So, on to the next topic. You start. You're starting.
I was just looking at you.
Go on, you go.
All right, the next topic is going to be the connection between recovery and sleep. Now, we know that there are different variables that can affect your ability to recover from your training. Nutrition, supplementations, sleep is definitely one of those. The general rule of thumb is anything between 7 to 9 hours seems to be optimal for most people. You can find that individual that need 10. You can find that individual that they can get away with 6. 7 to 9 hours is a very good base to start from. So yeah, prioritizing sleep is definitely something that we want to look into if our goal is to maximize performance and aesthetic. Now, there are different strategies to improve sleep quality. Some of them are, for example, being consistent with the sleep time and waking up time.
Yeah.
If I go to sleep every night at 9 p.m., I'm most likely not feel sleepy at 9 p.m. the night after. If I always wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning, I typically at 5 a.m. tend to feel that I want to wake up. So consistency over time improve your ability to sleep and to wake up in a relaxed state. So I would say that's definitely something that I would suggest if possible. Supplementation, there are a few supplements that you can utilize to improve sleep quality, such as magnesium would be a big one.
Yeah.
Ashwagandha is another supplement that can be used.
Also reduces stress too, ashwagandha.
Yeah, it's a stress reducer and improves sleep quality. taurine, glycine, these are amino acids that you can utilize to improve sleep quality. Other things, for example, avoiding blue light. We know that having a lot of lights flashing in our eyes in the hours before going to sleep can actually affect how good our sleep is going to be later on. So maybe minimize phone use or television could be something if it's possible. Let me think. Other things, meditation could be something else. Hot bath as well.
Hot baths.
Whatever you find relaxing can help you put in that position.
Even music. So like, music in the background. White noise, which they actually use for babies. You can actually use it for adults. That can help. So it's like rain noises and stuff like that. So things that Luca were mentioning about how they help you sleep. It's optimal sleep is going to give you optimal performance. If you are lacking sleep, you're going to lack performance. And not even that, they've actually done studies. It correlates with hormone imbalances as well. I had a lot of clients in the past who could not move weight, and it wasn't their diet and wasn't their training, it was their lack of sleep. They were getting only 3 to 2 hours a night sleep, 2 to 3 hours, a night's sleep, which is horrendous, right? That's not good at all. So if your sleep's not on point, your hormones aren't going to be on point because your body hasn't properly recovered. And you want to be focusing on deep RM sleep. So a lot of people might say, well, what about marijuana? Right? So some people then move down the road of going, well, I can't sleep, so I'll eat medicinal marijuana, right? CBD or THC, right? Now, yes, it will put you to sleep, right? But their studies have shown that it doesn't give you RM sleep. And RM sleep is the most important part of the sleep cycle that's going to give you the best of recovery. So I wouldn't suggest probably taking that stuff. I would probably work on more natural ways of getting yourself to sleep. So like Luca said, ashwagandha, magnesium, meditation, using music or some sort of relaxation technique to get you to fall asleep. And funny enough, what Luca was saying about the phones, please, for God's sakes, just put your phones aside. That is the main reason why you're not going to sleep.
Also, avoiding stimulants is something important. So caffeine is something that we don't really want to have later during the day. We know the half-life of caffeine is anywhere between 6 to 8 hours by memory, meaning that if I have 100 milligrams of caffeine, after 6 to 8 hours, I still have 50 milligrams in the system. So it takes a while to fade away. So after, I would say, 3 p.m., I would probably minimize it. And it's not just the caffeine from coffee, it could also be from your pre-workout. Meaning that if you train in the evening, maybe using pre-workout is not going to be a great idea, especially if you are sensitive. So I think everyone is going to have a negative impact to a certain extent, some people more than the other. But stimulants or pre-workout or anything that increase alertness is something that we want to minimize later during the day.
And Dr. Human talks about that. So he goes into talking about how that having coffee pass into the afternoon actually can lead to not sleeping properly. And Luke is right, it actually can affect your sleep. And it's not ideal. So I don't know about you guys, but I've realised that if I ever had to do an afternoon session and I've had caffeine, yes, I struggle to sleep because I'm caffeinated through the gills and I can't sleep. So don't have caffeine in the afternoon. If you're going to have caffeine and you need caffeine to train, have it in the morning and train in the morning.
You can use like a pre-workout that is not stimulant based too. Something like tyrosine, L-carnitine, citrulline are all amino acid that don't affect your adrenal system, and they can improve your performance without affecting your sleep. So that's something that you can look into if you train in the afternoon or in the evening.
Good point. Very good point, Luca. Because so the moral story is try to get, what do you reckon, 6 to 8 hours sleep?
I would say 7 to 9 would be optimal, but let's say that you normally have 6 and you go from 6 to 7, I would say still an improvement. But
So 6 to 8 hours sleep, guys, and you should be feeling great.
Okay, so point number 4 is the connection between hot bath, ice bath, no fucking.
The sauna.
It's the sauna, it's not the hot bath.
Doesn't matter, we'll keep going. We just keep going. Hey, it's good to put on. People like...
Okay,
So, go.
Point number 4 is the connection between sauna and ice bath and recovery. So how to utilize this strategy to improve recovery over time. Now, it could be a controversial topic because we know that depends on the goal, but if my goal is to build a muscle, inflammation is good, within reasons. We know that if I go to train tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for my quad session, which I will, I'm going to create inflammation in my quadricep. Inflammation is a sign that it's time to build up muscle and to get stronger. So having some degree of inflammation is positive because it triggers muscle adaptation, but having excess inflammation is going to be not detrimental because it could impair recovery. How much is too much? That's the question. So the issue is using ice bath can decrease inflammation to the point that you blunt the hypertrophic response.
Correct.
I think in bodybuilding in general, the application for ice bath is very limited because inflammation is something we want and we don't want to minimize to ice bath. However, if you do sport where we have a very high level of inflammation due to high volume, such as Ironman maybe, Crossfit potentially, depends how much volume you do, there could be an application for ice bath. So the bottom line is if decreasing inflammation is going to be beneficial or if it's going to be detrimental for performance. For bodybuilding, I would say I will lean more toward the don't do it because I believe that inflammation is something that we want. In 1 hour, 1.5 hour training is not likely going to be excessive. If I do a sport that requires me to run and cycle and swim for 12 hours in a row, maybe that could be something that's going to backfire. So there could be an application for sport with a very high level of volume that create excessive level of inflammation.
Another thing is you want to actually do these recovery sessions on an off day. You really don't want to do it on a training day, especially ice baths. So like Luca was saying, it does blunten your muscle growth in when you're doing hypertrophy to do an ice bath literally straight after you have done a hypertrophy session. So you shouldn't be doing that. You should be doing it on your off days if you're using it as a recovery technique. I used to do ice baths a lot. I still do them frequently, but I do them on my off days. I don't do them on my training days because, like Luca said, it does affect muscle, like building muscle. So doing them on your off days is a good idea. Doing saunas on the days you're training, you can do it because saunas, on the other hand, is okay to do it on training days. I hate the heat, but I have to do saunas because I know the benefits of doing a sauna. Because a sauna does obviously increase blood flow, promotes new blood through areas where you obviously, if you're suffering injuries, sauna is a good idea.
Yep.
But then also an ice bath is a good idea as well. But you've got to use them when the right time. You've got to time it right. You can't just do them. Like a sauna can be done pretty much training day and off days. Ice baths, on the other hand, I highly recommend doing them only on recovery days.
Yeah, I think also like this type of strategy, they look cool on video, but I think the basics are going to be: do you sleep enough? Do you have enough calories? Do you have enough protein? Do you actually train enough to justify the need for a recovery strategy?
Like if you're doing sauna and ice bath, but none, like Lucas said, none of the other stuff's on point. Well, it's not going to do it. It's not going to do anything. Like,
well, if you don't train hard enough, anyway, like the ice bath is not going to help you because you didn't train hard to start with.
Correct.
So I believe that a lot of the time we can see on social media people using ice bath and other very fancy and exotic strategy to recover when there is not much.
Their training technique is, Look, ice baths, on the other hand, too, there is another element of ice baths more than just recovery. It's more of a mental resilience. So a lot of people do ice baths for the mental resilience of it. And I'm for that because it's an extreme form of meditation. So it's great. So not only does it have benefits for muscle recovery and all that, but it's actually got benefits mentally speaking because the dopamine release from an ice bath is ridiculous. So there's a lot on that. There's a lot of studies that suggest how much dopamine is released after an ice bath, and it's just ridiculous. It's that feeling once you get out of the ice bath, you feel alive. You feel like, oh my gosh, you feel amazing. And it is an amazing feeling, and it's great. And I like using ice baths as an extreme form of meditation because you actually can relax. Because the only thing you're focusing on in that specific point in time is trying to obviously control your breathing, which we don't do on a day-to-day basis. So if you really want to focus on helping yourself better to be able to breathe properly, and which can obviously transition into better workouts, doing an ice bath is a good idea. Same with a sauna. A sauna can get really hot and you have to focus on your breathing before panicking and obviously getting out. Optimal time in a sauna, I wouldn't say you wouldn't spend more than 25 minutes in it. No. You don't need more than that. Ice bath, maximum 15 minutes, max 15 minutes. 5 minutes is plenty if you're doing an ice bath. Then you've also got hot and cold therapy. So you go ice bath, hot bath, ice bath.
That will promote more blood flow due to restriction and vasodilatation.
Yes, so that is another great option. If you have the ability to do that, like Luca was just explaining, it's great because what you're doing is you're jumping in the ice bath, everything's contracting, then you're jumping into the hot bath, and then more new blood flow is coming through. And you're doing that for 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. And that's what you're technically doing. And it's great. I've done it, and it's amazing. But yeah, all in all, like Luca was explaining, and like I've been saying, is that you do see a lot of social media influencers using this, and most of the time, you're not training hard enough to even need a sauna or an ice bath.
Or you don't focus enough on fundamentals such as sleep and nutrition. So
Yeah,
that would be something I will definitely prioritize, and
100%.
you can add something else on top of it.
But like, some people have a placebo effect with the ice bath, where they feel like it helps them tenfold. And now I'm one of those people. Like, honestly, I love using the ice bath. I feel like it does help me. It probably might blunt my muscle growth on some days when I'm using it, but mentally speaking, it helps me. So I feel like it's a good thing to use. You know what I mean? And that can obviously transition over to better training anyways, because what you're doing is you're obviously feeling good, and the feeling good is going to help you tenfold. So all in all, use your ice baths on recovery days. Sauna, use it whenever you want. But at the end of the day, like Lucas said, if everything else is out of whack, there is no point of doing sauna and ice bath, because it's not going to add any benefit to your life anyways. Because they're an added on. They're an add-on. They're not that is what you have to focus on. I think the most important thing would be nutrition and sleep before you even think of the recovery
time,
before ice baths and saunas. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and one of the factors that we want to consider is training can be somewhat enjoyable for most people. It's very unlikely that individuals find dieting enjoyable. There are not many people that love to track their food or to be diligent with their calories tracking and macros tracking. So with the training, there are exceptions, but I would say most of the time if somebody sees progression and they see they're getting stronger and bigger over time, they start to enjoy the process. You can have a great result in terms of fat loss and muscle gain, but you still probably won't like the diet part as much. So focusing on the diet is something that we really want, especially if the goal is aesthetic. If the goal is performance based, you still have a strong role. You can probably get away with little things, but it's still quite important to focus on protein intake, calories intake, and being in a caloric surplus. But aesthetic is paramount, that you can really work around it.
So it's pretty much just your diet and your sleep is most important before even contemplating ice baths and saunas. They're an add-on. All right, so you just put those on to help you with recovery. But if your sleep and your diet isn't on point, and obviously you're training, but like Luca was just saying, you enjoy training, so you're going to do the training. But if these two aren't on point, then why are you doing these? They're just like fluff then. So they're good, they're great, we all use them, and I hope what we've spoken about on this podcast, this episode, has helped you guys. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss another time we make an upload. But if you have any questions, please go down to our Instagrams and obviously hit us up in Instagram, DM us and ask us questions. And if you want us to cover something on the next episode, again, let us know. We'd love to answer your questions. But other than that, guys, we'll see you later, and we'll see you on another episode of Spaghetti and Barbells.
We'll see you soon.
Catches.